E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guimwa, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guimwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief. And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. You've heard me talk a lot about them. One of our guests, Rennie, Gabriel, is with us today. He knows a lot about the 6-minute webinar, and both of us can tell you, no matter what your project is, if you want to write a book, or if you want to give a speech, or if you want to make a presentation for your product, the 6-minute webinar is mandatory for you, because it enables you to really focus down on the bullet comments and give your ideal clients the meat and potatoes that they're really hungry for. We're also brought to you by a good friend of ours, Mr. Bill Heinrich, the author of The 7 Levels of Truth. And I keep Mr. Bill's book around here. Here it is. I'm going to show you the cover of it. It's on Amazon, The 7 Levels of Truth. And this book right here, I'd like you to listen up to let me just share the comments here on the back cover, because this is what it's about in the nutshell of it. This book, and Bill took 30 years to write it, it provides to you the answers that you've been searching for, the solutions for you to have the success in life that you really want and you deserve. Your birthright, I like this, your birthright is for you to enjoy abundance, love, peace, and joy. The 7 Levels of Truth will show you how to achieve all of these results in your life. And we highly recommend that book. I personally endorse it. And Bill is just a wonderful friend of ours. And like I said, it took 30 years for him to make that book. It was 30 years because he walked away from his life. And the only thing it took was his name, and he tried to find out why he was so miserable. So if you're struggling, I encourage you to take a look at get his book off of Amazon. And if you're not happy with it, trust me on this, Bill Heinrich will give you your money back. You can't go wrong there, folks. Last week we had Mr. Rennie Gabriel on the TV show, and this was kind of like just a warm up for what we're going to be doing. We got Mr. Mike Wolf with us, and we're going to be talking about real estate. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please don't let anybody know this, but I'm still learning how to spell real estate. So that would give you a heads up and straightforward clue how little I know about real estate. But we're in here first because I want him to share with you about what Rennie is and his wonderful charity, Shelter the Soldier. Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing terrific. Thank you so much for having me on, Jim.
My pleasure.
So, yeah, the first thing I'll talk about is this fabulous charity, Shelter to Soldier, where dogs are rescued from environments where they could be euthanized. And instead, they are trained as service animals for soldiers who've come back with PTSD or traumatic brain injuries. So those folks could have committed suicide. So every dollar is saving 2 lives, a dog that would have been euthanized and a soldier who receives a service dog that would have otherwise or could have otherwise committed suicide. So it's one of my favorite charities, and we've donated a lot of money to them.
Good deal. I removed myself because the TV screen doesn't be able to show the Shelter the Soldier there to Rennie's right. And I wanted you guys to see it, shelterthesoldier.org. It's a wonderful thing. Last week we had Rennie on the show, and actually this started about 3 weeks ago or something. I called him and told him about, we were talking about hard issues. We get to the heart of the matter around here. You know what I mean? And guess what's in this cup? Just take a wild guess, Rennie.
Dandelion tea.
Yes, sir. You got it. Yeah.
Same thing I'm drinking every day since we talked.
Oh, yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, dandelion tea, please do your own research on it, because one of the key things that we all need, I don't care if your eyes are shining and you feel like you can jump over a mountain, we all have problem with inflammation in our bodies. We need to lower that inflammation, because with a good diet and having the inflammation lowered in our body, that is the foundation you build your health off of. So do your research. There's a lot of studies have been done on dandelion tea. And like one of the cardiologists that I was studying, he says, this thing is like a repair kit for your heart. Several cardiologists that I studied do not recommend or prescribe the normal prescription drugs for their heart patients. And I went to my cardiologist last Wednesday, and he's very impressed with what I'm doing. The EKG, it was just perfect spikes, no wiggly lines or anything like that. My eyes didn't flutter or fade or anything during I passed that test and didn't even have to study for it. I was pretty proud of that. He was impressed, and I told him about the dandelion, and we're going to do a series of lab work about once every 3 months, and plus it lowers the triglycerides. I mean, just do the homework yourself. Make the right decision for you to see if dandelion tea is a good plant for you to take. I drink it in the tea, and a lot of people, the whole plant's edible. Anyway, that's what started. And then we started talking about real estate. And Rennie, you were 50 years of age, and you didn't have very much money, did you, brother?
I say that I was broke because, yes, $3,000 to my name at age 50 is close enough to broke.
Yeah. We actually call that in today's as being financially embarrassed. But Rennie got into paying himself first, and 10% of what he made, and he talked about some secrets on there, secrets of the wealthy, and you need to go back and check into that show. But I told him, I said, I'd like to have a show. It take an individual on a journey on how to get real estate, to acquire real estate, buy real estate without any money from that individual. There's money obviously got to come from another source. So to be able to buy real estate with no money out of your pocket, I figured, well, I probably can't afford that, And then Rennie, you introduced me to Mr. Mike Wolf. And let's welcome Mike to the show here.
Hey, Mike. Good to see you guys. How are you guys?
Fine. How are you doing? I got to put up some marquees here. Get in touch with Rennie at RennieGabriel.com. Also, his second website is like right there. You see it on the screen, wealthonanyincome.com, and boom, chicky boom, there that is. And Mike's website is MikeWolfMastery.com. I've got it down here. I've got about 50 of these little banners here. And that is MikeWolfMastery.com. That's his website. So during the show, I'm going to be alternating these websites through there for you folks to be able to take a look at it. But Mike, welcome to the show. We had a wonderful meeting the other day, and the chemistry there, ladies and gentlemen, it was just vibration, pure vibration. It was just great. Just so glad. This is going to be a fun show. So Rennie and Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you guys, since you guys are the real estate experts, and I'm still trying to learn how to spell real estate. So I'm going to let you guys take the floor there.
All right. Well, thanks, Jim.
I'll make a couple of comments. I've known Mike for a few years, and he started younger than I did. I had saved $18,000. Mike had nothing when he started. So I'm going to let Mike talk about his backstory, and then I can talk about mine. And the whole point of this is those folks that are listening, you out there, if you have money, great. If you don't have money, it still works. You can buy real estate. And the reason Mike and I don't have to work for a living is because of the real estate investments we've made and the income that it throws off. And that's why I can donate 100% of the profits teaching other people these concepts because I don't need the money from that. So, Mike, let's hear your backstory.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because you said I started with nothing. I started with less than nothing. I was aspiring to get to zero. So I'll tell you my backstory. Back in grade 12, which was a long time ago, you guys weren't born yet. I had no idea. I had no idea what I wanted to do the next year. And my parents had always like, Mike, you're going to be a doctor or lawyer. Those were my only two choices, apparently, doctor or lawyer. And I was terrified and still am terrified of blood. So doctor was not going to happen. But lawyer, you see those shows and the lawyers have the fancy offices. I thought, okay, that looks kind of glamorous. Okay. So I went and got my first degree. And with that first degree came $24,000 worth of student loans, which back 1989, I guess it was when I graduated with my first degree. That was a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And actually was an insurmountable amount of money to me at that time. I didn't think I'd ever be able to pay it off. But anyway, I decided before I go back and get that second degree, I'm going to get this paid off. And so I got a job at the phone company. A buddy of mine, his mother was a manager there. And back then it was union and government and it paid really well. And while I was working there, I was kind of slowly chipping away at the student loans. But I also managed to buy my first home to live in. And shortly after I moved in, my mortgage broker calls me up and said what I thought was the weirdest thing at that time. He goes, Mike, if you want, I can get you another mortgage if you want to buy another property. And I go, what? I'm like, back then I was in my early to mid 20s and I'm a single guy. Like, why on earth would I want another property? And he said, well, you buy it, you put a tenant in there, and in 25 years it's paid off. And then that's your retirement plan right there. And I go, okay, that makes sense. So I did the only due diligence that I knew how to do, and that was to buy a pretty home that was close to where I lived. And as luck would have it, a couple of years after I bought those homes, the market took off. The 2 years from the time that I bought those homes was a lot like these past two COVID years where the prices were just going up and up and up. And all of a sudden I was sitting on more equity than I ever thought I'd see in my whole life. Not only was it enough to pay off my student loans, but it was enough to I did the wrong thing. I actually quit my job, which I don't do that, by the way. Don't do one real estate deal and quit your job. But that's what I did. And I also went and told my parents that, hey, this law school thing, that's your dream for me. That's not my dream. And I was hooked because I remember I was looking at how much equity I had. And I was thinking, I worked at the phone company these past 2 years and I made this much. And I don't even know what I'm doing in real estate. And I made that much. So imagine what would happen if I did real estate on purpose. So I told my mom that I'm not going back. She's still kind of angry at me for that, but that's okay. And quit the job. And unfortunately, I wish I could say it was all like smooth sailing from there. But my next deal, you got to remember, I got lucky on the first deal. But I, as a young kid, thought it all went to my head. It went to my ego. And it's like, well, obviously I did well because I know everything there is to know about real estate, clearly. And so went and bought my next property with the equity from the first one and managed to lose almost all of what I made. So you got to remember the first one was meant to be a long-term hold. It was meant to be hold it for 25 years. That's your retirement. And now all of a sudden I've got no paychecks coming in because I quit my job. And I'm thinking, well, I got to get a paycheck like every 3 or 6 months or something, because eventually this money's going to run out. And then what? And then I have to go tell my mom she was right. I should have stuck with school. So anyway, after I lost most of my money, I invested what I did have in getting a mentor. And that's something I should have done actually before I did those first deals. I always tell people the time to get the map is before you go into the woods. So I did it the opposite way. But luckily, thanks to that, I'm here talking about real estate. I'm not here talking about legalities and being a lawyer. So I'm very grateful for that. But that's how I got started. And so for those of you who are tuning in that maybe think, oh, how do you do deals with like no money down? It must be a scam or there's no way to do it. Well, I personally got my first 2 properties using no money down. And I still use some of these techniques for getting properties for either no money or very low money down. And so I just want to teach you that none of this is illegal. We're not teaching anything that's gray area. This is all stuff that anybody can do and you won't go to jail. So you can even talk to your lawyer about it, and they will hopefully agree with me. If not, I'm going to go to jail. Somebody's going to go to jail if I'm listening. Might be me. So, but it's totally true.
That reminds me of one reason why I wanted to do this show is because back it was in the 80s because I lived in Arizona then. I was invited to go to a real estate webinar or seminar, and I'd heard all these wonderful things about making money in real estate, and I didn't know anything about it. So I figured, well, I'm just going to go there, see what I can learn. And holy enchiladas. I found out the hard way it was free to come, but they wanted you to pay to get out of there.
Oh, yeah.
It was a pressure cooker, as I shared with Mike and also with Rennie. I really didn't understand what I'd be getting or what to do with it. And the last thing that I want to do, and I advise you folks, if you don't understand what you're buying, don't buy it, plain and simple. And so I got up, and of course, the doors in the back from the front, I mean, they're right in the center in the back, and they had a table over on the right if you're looking from front to the back. And so I get up and I sneak down the left side wall, and I'm got to make that turn to head to the door. And I kind of glanced out of my eye, and there was a gentleman and a lady standing there. They didn't say anything verbally, but their body language and the way they looked at me, they made me feel about this high, because they look like you got to be extra stupid not to take this opportunity that we're offering here, And I just felt, yay high. And I imagine there's people out there in TV land can say, yeah, I've been to places like that. And they really put the pressure on you. What we wanted to do with this show here on every Monday is be able to share things about real estate, how we can, get property without any money down or small amount of money down. But there's other money that you could borrow from or acquire or whatever. And I'm slaughtering this, so I'm going to hush and turn it back over.
Yeah. So, I'll take off.
Okay.
With my backstory at this point, because I had a little bit of money. So I find myself at age 50 with 2 divorces and a business failure, but I'm at least working for a living. Now, I'm not making a lot. I'm earning $5,000 a month. And like Jim said earlier, I was setting aside 10% of that. And that concept of pay yourself first is about 5,000 years old. Took me 36 months, and I saved up $18,000. Here I am. I'm 53 years of age, and I've got a whopping $18,000 to my name. Well, I'm married for the last time. It's been 25 years now.
Good.
And my wife had this real estate partner who said, Rennie, you should buy this little triplex. It's a little 3-unit building. Well, I'm in Los Angeles, and $18,000 doesn't buy anything. Mm-hmm. So like Mike was saying, you can do it without any money. But what that means is someone's money needs to come in. Well, so I had 18,000. My wife said, well, he thinks it's such a good deal. I'll throw in 18,000 because the realtor said, this is such a good deal. I'll put up 36,000. So the 3 of us together bought this little triplex. And one of the expressions I've created from that experience is that wealth creation is a team sport, not a solo sport. The 3 of us pooled our money. We bought that triplex, and 5 years later, that triplex grew in value by $500,000. My 18,000 was worth 125,000. Now in the United States, we got this wonderful law called with the IRS. It's called tax deferred exchange. It's section 1031. And it says, if you sell a piece of real estate and you buy a different kind of real estate or the same kind of real estate, just something like what you sold, you don't have to pay capital gains taxes on that money you made. We were able to roll the whole $500,000 profit into a 14-unit building and not have to pay the taxes on it. They're all getting deferred until sometime when I drop dead or sell it and then don't buy anything. Bottom line is, between the ages of 53 and 58, I went from that 3-unit purchase, added 47 more units with my wife and the realtor, and ended up with a level of income that I didn't have to work anymore for the rest of my life.
Wow.
It took 5 years from age 53 to 58. So I had a little bit of money, but doing the right things that are available to do in real estate that anyone can do. I mean, I'm not all that smart. I failed high school math. So like I said, anybody could do that, but it's a team sport.
Absolutely. And I just put up your banner there, sheltertosoldier.org. I put it as Rennie's preferred nonprofit. That's where all the profits from the Wealth on Any Income go to that wonderful organization. So if you folks like to check it out, please do.
And if they go to the Wealth on Any Income website, there's a link to that charity right at the top of the page.
Absolutely. And we've had those folks on the show, and they just do a tremendous job. They really do. And, talking about real estate, and, we hear about, no money down and how you can buy it, using other people's money and things of that nature. A lot of people have heard that, including me. But, if I was to sit down and try to put it together, I wouldn't even know where to start, much less forget finish. I wouldn't be able to see the finish line if I lived to be 300.
So, and in a way, it's a misnomer, and Mike alluded to this. When they say no money down, what they mean is the individual who may be making the purchase is not putting any of their money down.
Right.
The money is coming from somewhere. As an example, for this little triplex, it came from 2 other people to make that down payment. If I had nothing, we could have probably still done it. It's just they would have come up with more money, and I'd have put in some what's called sweat equity. I would have done more management. I'd have been more hands-on with remodeling. I'd have pulled up the carpet, whatever. There's a way of doing it.
Now, Rennie, you deal more in
Mike,
buildings.
you got to unmute when you talk.
Yeah. You got to put a quarter in that thing, Mike. He'll figure it out there. It's either, just go ahead. Whenever you figure out, that's fine. But Rennie, you mainly deal in apartment buildings and things like that.
Yes.
And Mike, he kind of like deals in individual houses, right?
That's correct. And Mike's found that the houses work very well for him. And I found I've got a bias against individual houses, and I'd rather buy multi-unit properties. And it's sort of like we're both right. Mike, if you look at the bottom of the StreamYard screen, you should see the microphone mute.
Oh, there we go. I apologize.
Yeah, there we go.
I used to. This is not. I am on here once in a while, but not as often.
Yeah.
Anyway,
see, that's why we're glad he's good in real estate, because technician, he's like me.
Tech is not my thing, but real estate is, and so I'm actually going to take it a step further, though, Rennie, and say that you actually can buy real estate using no money of your own or anybody else's money, for that matter.
Okay, tell me how.
I'll give you an example. I give you lots of different strategies. I'll just do one, because Jim said he doesn't even know where to start, let alone end. So, Jim, imagine you're driving to see your do you have kids, grandkids?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yes. And great grandkids.
All
yes.
right. Wow. Okay. So imagine you're going to visit all of them, and on the way, you drive past this house that you've driven past a million times. There's tarps on the roof, and there's weeds up to your knees. And every time you've driven past it, you said, "Man, I wish they would do something with this house. It's bringing down the neighborhood, it's bringing down the value of the homes." And now, if you're an expert real estate investor, you drive by that and you say, "Hey, that looks like a paycheck to me," because what you're going to do is, and let's say you have no money in the bank, you're flat broke. You drive past it and you call up the owner. If the owner, it's vacant, but you find the owner, you pull title, and quite often you'll get a conversation that goes like this. It's like, "Hey, you know what? I inherited this property from my grandmother who passed away. I thought owning real estate was supposed to be a good thing, but I keep getting bills from the city because they're maintaining my lawn, and I'm getting these property tax bills, and I don't have the money to cover it. And if somebody were just to give me $100,000, I'd just get rid of this headache right now." You know, in the neighborhood, know this home's worth a lot more than 100,000. Let's say you know it's worth 200,000, and I'm just using really round numbers. But let's say you know it's worth 200,000, but you don't have that 100,000 to give them, and you certainly don't want to pass up that deal. So one of the things you can do, and it's called wholesaling, is you could find somebody else. So you know that obviously I happen to like real estate, and Rennie happens to like real estate. There's a bunch of other people that might want a good deal. So imagine you call me up and say, hey, Mike, I found this property. It's I can get it for $100,000. It's worth $200,000. If you're willing to give me $20,000, I will assign that contract to you. So you're going to put it under contract, which means you're going to write an offer to purchase on it. But in the offer to purchase, you're going to put Jim Grant or nominee, or you're going to put Jim Grant or assignee. And what that means is it doesn't have to be you that closes on that deal. You're also going to put some clauses in there to protect you in case you don't find a buyer for it. So you've now put this under contract, so I can't go circumvent you and steal the deal. And you say, hey, Mike, I got this great deal. If you give me $20,000, the deal is yours. And now, of course, I've never once turned down giving $20,000 to get $100,000 in return. So I would immediately sign that contract. I'd immediately give you a check. And you just got paid on your first real estate deal that you didn't put a dime. In some places, to make it legal, you have to put like $1 to make the contract legal. So I apologize. You do have to have $1 in some cases. But literally, you didn't put any of your own money in the deal. You got paid for a deal that you never actually owned. And you get paid whether I'm successful or not. So if I go and totally mess it up, and instead of making 100,000, I lose 100,000, you still get to keep the 20K. And so that's just one of numerous strategies. So it really pays to learn, you know, the different ways to get in the game, because had I done things traditionally, when I first started, I was like 23 when I did my first real estate deal, and my parents wouldn't loan me a dime, let alone a stranger. Nobody was going to loan me money. So I didn't have that as an option, but I had to be creative. And creative doesn't, like I said, doesn't have to be, you don't have to break any laws to be creative. But to give you actually, I'll tell you exactly how I did my first deal. My first deal, like I said, I had all this debt. I didn't have very much in my bank account. And my mortgage broker told me, well, that you can, for your down payment to be considered legal by the bank, like it can't just show up out of nowhere. It has to be sitting in your bank account for 90 days. It has to show up on 3 consecutive bank statements. And so he said, no, your credit's really good. I can get you a line of credit. You cut yourself a check, you put it in the bank for 90 days, and then that's your down payment. And then the rest of it will be mortgage. And so the bank 100% funded my first real estate deal. They gave me the down payment, then they gave me the mortgage, and I had zero money into that. And everything that I own today is as a result of that very first deal that I almost didn't do, because if it weren't for the mortgage broker telling me how to, you know, step by step how to do it, I would have never known to do it. And I also it never really clicked to me, hey, I can buy another property and put tenants in there. That was not even in the financial position I was in. That was like the last thing I thought I could do. And so once again, it's so important to get a mentor, get somebody to show you the different strategies. I mean, I could go on, I could do a whole segment on a million different ways that you could buy properties with zero down or very, very low down. And even though now I've got the funds to do deals with my own money, a lot of times I still don't use my own money because there's so many other ways to do it. So it really pays to get educated. And right now there's just so many, there's going to be so many people, unfortunately, in trouble, you know, as we, you know, the interest rates continue to go up and inflation continues to rise. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be in trouble. And one of the things that I always teach my students is that we're problem solvers. Real estate investor doesn't really mean anything. Problem solver means that we go and we find people who are in a distressed situation. Like in that example, you found that person inherited a home. To her, that wasn't an asset. That was a liability that she wanted to get rid of. So you created a win for her, and you created a win for yourself, and you created a win for me. And so that's what real estate investing is. It's about solving problems and creating wins for everybody. And when you do that, not only do you make a lot of money, you help a lot of people, and it's extremely fulfilling.
That sounds very interesting. I tell you, it's thing that's interesting to me is that I'd like to go on a journey with you and be able to, you know, find a home and, you know, do some of the things that you're talking about and share that with the public out there. And also for, you know, for you folks out there in TV land would like to get in touch with Mike, just reach out to him there at MikeWolfMastery.com, and he'll be glad to visit with you. And also with Rennie, I mean, wealthonanyincome.com. My goodness. I mean, that's a win-win situation right there. But for me to go out and find a place, would I look locally or would I look on the internet or how would I do that?
Now, here's a beautiful thing is that I gave you an example. You're driving to go see the kids, but there's ways you can actually go on the internet. For example, one of my other favorite strategies is something called tax deeds. And what a tax deed is, when somebody hasn't paid their property taxes in like 2 or 3 years, the county is eventually going to put that home up on the auction block. They need that money for their hospitals, police force, etc. And so they've got to get that money from somewhere. And unfortunately, at some point, they're going to put that home up for auction if those taxes don't get, these are property taxes, by the way, if the property taxes don't get paid. And they publish a list every single month, well, numerous lists, because this happens all over the country. My favorite auction takes place in Texas, and every month they publish a list of all the homes that are going to go up for auction at the end of the month. So when I talk about people that are in distress, imagine at the end of the month your home is gone. And so a really great, a lot of people take that list and they go and they bid at the auction, which is great. But I like to take it a step further. I actually like to go and track down the homeowners before they lose their home. They still control the property at this point, and I can go and create a win for them. I can figure out a way to give them what I call a soft landing, meaning instead of them losing their home and getting nothing and potentially being homeless or having to live at a friend's or relative's place, and start literally all over again, I can quite often purchase their property and make sure they've got enough money for a damage deposit and several months rent, money for food. Or I could put them in one of my other properties that's more affordable, or do a rent to own for them and help them get back on their feet. So I can create a win for them and stop that home from going to auction. It's also a win for me because now I don't have to bid against all the other people at the auction. But that's why it's so important to know what the menu is of all the different ways that you can do this. But like I said, they publish a list every month. And so you could just go, instead of driving around, we call that driving for dollars, when you drive around looking for homes that are in distress. But you can actually go online, get this entire list. And if you create good marketing, which I've done, you send it out to these people. Most of the time, these people have only got bad news. It's like lawyers calling them and collection agencies and banks, and they're all like hounding them for money, which they don't have. If you go and send something, and I used to have a company back in the last recession that I called foreclosure fixers. And instead of me saying, hey, talking about either, you see a lot of real estate investors will send out we buy homes or we buy ugly homes.
Yeah.
And these people don't want to see that. They know it's just vultures circling around. If you send them something saying, I can help you stop the foreclosure, that's a whole different piece of news for them. And so we were able to save quite a few people from losing their home to auction. And but once again, there's ways that you could do exactly what I just told you. You could put it under contract. You don't have to buy it. You could then, assign that contract to me or Rennie or anybody else, that likes to make money in real estate until you've got enough money to do these on your own. So there's just so many different ways. I get super excited. So sorry for hogging all the time.
That's quite all right, because that's what this show's about. It's not about the host. It's about the information that we provide from subject matter experts, because a lot of people out there are just like me. They know that there's money being made in real estate, but the last thing that any of us want to do is spend thousands of dollars and go to night school. I mean, to be honest, I'm not lazy or anything, but I think I've actually afforded all the experience that I can earn, or I can afford right now. I've earned it anyway. But that sounds real good. And I'd like to work a deal with you and Rennie together on that. And I'll do some work behind the scenes. And then next week, when we come back on again, we'll give an update on that and just share more information about, the real estate there, because there's going to be a lot of questions. And Rennie, during that call, you made a very nice suggestion about a young lady that you're helping.
Oh, yes.
And whenever they run me through the wringer washer and get me dried, Rennie would like to work a deal with her. Would you share a little information about her, please?
Oh, thank you. There's a gal, 25-year-old gal. She's got a 5-year-old daughter. And she also had last year a 2-year-old daughter that died. because of some birth defects and misdiagnosis. One thing led to another. She ended up homeless, and we ran across her through a program where people can reach out through city services and request things for the holiday. And my wife signed up to donate things to people over Christmas. And she met this woman and her child, and they bonded. And she's a smart gal. She was working hard. She was working from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. at FedEx. Then she was driving for DoorDash, trying to earn a living, living out of her car, couch surfing where she could with her little girl. Anyway, we are helping her. I have actually given her my car to use because the car she was using was her mom's, and it broke down, stopped working altogether. She's going to school, taking up nursing studies. She is just hired by the LA Metro to drive a city bus. And she's got accepted into some programs where it looks like she'll be able to get some long-term housing.
Wow.
And so we've set up a GoFundMe account for her. Anyone who would like to contribute to the transformation of what I call this super mom, reach out to me and I'll send you the link for the GoFundMe.
Yes, go to Rennie's website there, wealthonanyincome.com, and he'll be glad to send you the link. And it's a wonderful thing. And that's the kind of people that we have here on the show. And this is what this show's about, how we can reach out and help people and share information. Because there is a principle in life, and that is when you bless someone, you're going to get blessed in return. It may not it probably won't come back from them, but somewhere down the road. Yeah, like I say, the senior in the sky, he definitely pays his bills, that's for sure. And he pays them very well. But that's why we want to share as much information as we can. And on our email address here, you can email us here at inspiration@e360tv.com. And this is our email here at the TV show. And if you'd like to be down the road as we continue to roll with this here, if you'd like to get associated and be with us here on the show and be able to learn what you need to do to be able to buy some real estate with little or no money down, please email us and let us know. And we will get back with you, and I'll get with Rennie and Mike and find a way where we can fit you in, and we'll go from there.
And I'm going to do something. I'm in the chat to you, Jim. I'm going to put the link to the GoFundMe.
Okay.
And if you want to make a little banner with
I can do that.
Do that.
Yeah, be glad to. Be glad to.
People can go direct, and if they're in the mood to contribute to someone who is quasi homeless, but who's really getting up on her feet. This is a person who needs a hand up, not a hand out.
Right.
Because she's a hardworking girl, 25 years old, as mature as can be. Like I said, 2-year-old daughter died last year. She's still raising her 5-year-old daughter. And actually the 1-year service for the little 2-year-old is coming up in about 12 days, 11 days. So
I know how that feels. I lost a little girl shortly after birth due to birth defects, and that's a tough road to hoe. It really is. And you can see there at GoFundMe.com/F/donate-2-A-super-mom. Real simple, real easy. And please take advantage of that. If you can help this young lady out some, that'd be a wonderful thing to do. And it certainly would be appreciated, but also most importantly, you would be investing in yourself. That's where you look at it when you're helping others, because you don't expect anything from them, but you're definitely investing in yourself.
Yeah. I mentioned to you when we were talking earlier, not on this show, but there was a quote from John Templeton. He was being interviewed. John Templeton, very wealthy man, the Templeton Mutual Funds. And the interviewer said, "What was the best investment you made?" And he replied, "Tithing."
Yes.
Giving and kind of baffled the interviewer, who said, could you explain that? And he said, yeah, the more I give away, it seems like the more that I get in return.
I was listening to a guy talk about an individual. He was in insurance. He was very successful, and he decided before he retired he was going to try to give away as much of his money as he could. And he said it in a joking way. He says, "Doesn't look like I'm ever going to get a chance to retire, because the more I give away, the more I get." And it's just a vicious cycle like it. But it's just, there's many people like that can share their true life story of how when they go the extra mile and bless others and help others, it just comes back in truckloads to them, you might say. It really does. I've never seen it fail. I've never seen it fail once.
Yeah, I think not only does it come back, financially and other other great ways like that, but more importantly, just the way you feel after. I did a project in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, and we fixed up a whole bunch of homes. We didn't make any profit on it. We brought a whole bunch of people back to the city, and those homes were under like 20 feet of water for 3 weeks straight. And we had to tear them down, right down to the studs, and treat them for mold. We've never done so much work on a real estate project for no money ever. But it's my favorite project I've ever done. When I go back to New Orleans, you get to go see the people that you helped, and it's fulfilling. Like, even if nothing came back, just the fulfillment you get from that, no amount of money could buy that. And and I remember when I was younger, when people would say, "Oh, the more you give, the more you get." It took me a while to clue in, but it's totally true. It comes back in so many different ways, and much more than what you put out. It's incredible.
It truly does. It really does. And I tell you, it's just because I was so excited, because when I was talking to Rennie about this, he just jumped at the chance. He says, because he knows what's going to be coming down the line, and being able to help others and tell them about wealth on any income and shelter the soldier and helping this young girl. And my goodness, he was just, there was no way I could not keep him coming on this. In fact, he called me and he says, "Hey, where's that link at again?" About 15 minutes before we went live today, folks. He sure did. And that's what makes the world turn for me. It really does. Associating yourself with people who are like-minded, who have the spirit of giving and want to help others. I mean, that's just, we need that, because in this day and time, with all of the ugliness that we see, that's being vomited on society, we need to let all that stuff go. We need to look at each other as we're brothers and sisters by different mothers, and let it go at that, because that's exactly who we are. We really are. Except I came from the poor side of town, and Rennie came from the rich side of town, and Mike came from uptown.
It's funny, but you say that, and I was just relaying something. The pastor of the church where Kyla goes called me to say how grateful he was that my wife and I were supporting her. And he asked me to come and do a presentation for his whole flock.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, of course, I'd be thrilled to do that. But one of the things that it reminded me of is that they're all of the Black persuasion. But when I was growing up, I was the only white kid on a block. And I was a latchkey kid. I'd come home. Both my parents had to work. I'd come home from elementary school, and it was the Black neighbors who made sure I was safe and taken care of.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, a blessing for me to be able to support this pastor and his church.
Yeah. Because people that follow the show have heard me talk about growing up on a farm. And I kind of use it in a humorous way, but it's true. I said, we didn't know we were poor till we went to town. And but growing up, it was common for us to sit down, Dad to invite his friends over and have, a Sunday dinner together after church. And, they were Black fellas, but we didn't think anything about it. We were brought up like that. They were just our friends. And, I'm thankful that I grew up in a household like that. And I'm very, very blessed, because, kids, they, parents have a way of molding the mind of the kid. And I'm glad my dad taught me about, that people are people and we need to treat them as people. We need to treat them with respect. And of course, in that one course, I don't think you've ever heard that one, Rennie, but I talk about the LLAR system. Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to be liked. The A stands for everybody wants to be appreciated. And the R, everybody wants to be respected. And that's the way we should look at everyone. And I tell people, when I graduated in 1967 from high school, Aretha Franklin must have got the memo that I couldn't read too well. So the hit song, number one song the week we graduated was Aretha Franklin's Respect, and she spelled it out. And I believe she did that just for me, RESPCT.
Yeah, it helps because my spelling is atrocious. Not only did I fail high school math, but I can't spell worth a lick. Thank goodness we got spell check and emails and documents, and it makes a big difference for me.
Yeah, sometimes I get aggravated at my smartphone because it'll change a word or something like that. And I say, well, if you're so smart, why don't you just read my mind and put down what I want to say and let's go forward. Oh, my goodness.
Mike, when you were talking about, buying the properties with no money down and stuff like that, one of the things it did remind me of is while we bought a 14-unit building from the profit of the 3-unit, it's always a pain to go and get loans from the bank. And so this property, we had the owner finance it.
Yeah,
we didn't have to go to the bank.
Absolutely.
And that's worked out so great because we started off with like a 7% loan. This was like 2008. And then interest rates started dropping and we went to a 6% loan. And I think right now we're at 4.5%. And he was concerned because he didn't want to get less money. So I said, not a problem. I'll pay you more. And all it does is pay off the loan sooner. So because it was owner financed, we were able to work out reductions in interest rates, higher payments, pay it off early. And, he's happy as can be. And in another few years, we'll own the whole thing outright.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a great example of another way to do no money down deals is to get vendor financing. And once again, you got to make it a win for everybody. So in this case, he's getting interest, and a lot of people don't know. Imagine, for example, you own a rental property and you're sick of tenants and they're driving you nuts, and you go to sell it. You just want to get out of being a landlord. Well, these people had an investor mindset in the first place, so they bought a rental property. So they don't necessarily want to get out of investing. They just don't want to deal with tenants. So imagine you buy the property, you say, give me vendor financing. You're still going to get a monthly payment, but I'm not going to call you with a leaky toilet. I'm not going to call you at 2 a.m. with repairs. And now it's a win for them. They're getting a monthly payment, but they don't have to deal with tenants. You're getting what you want. You've now got a property, and everybody wins. And then the other piece of that is, if somebody owns a piece of property they've had for a while and they go and sell it and they're not reinvesting in more real estate, they're going to get hit with a pretty big capital gain bill. And if they take it in installments from you instead, they're not going to pay as much tax, and they're going to get to keep more of it. And so once again, if you can find a way to create a win for that other party, it's not as hard as you think to get somebody to agree to vendor financing. You just need to know how to approach it and how to put it in front of them in a way that shows the benefit to them.
Oh, well, in this case, it was just so easy because, like I said, we started off paying 7% for the financing. Well, if I'd have given him all that money and he would to go out and he had nowhere else to invest it, the bank would have been paying him 1%.
Exactly.
We gave him 6% more than that.
1% if he's very, very lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky. Yeah. But so true. So but that's why I love real estate. After 34 years of doing this, I still wake up excited because it's not just the money. The money after a while doesn't really excite you that much anymore. What does excite you is that you're making a difference. You're helping other people, and it just feels good to be able to do that over and over and over again.
Oh yeah. So looking at real estate in the future, a lot of people are with interest rates going up and, things, prices going up in general. There's going to be some people that's going to be falling on some hard times. And so this is going to be a great, great opportunity for someone to be able to get into the real estate business. And you don't really need a license to do what you do you?
Oh, not at all.
Oh, absolutely not.
Wow.
I got a license back in the 1970s. I used it once to buy a house,
Mhm.
and that was it. Haven't used it since.
That's really nice there because you don't have to go to real estate school or get a license or anything of that nature. And to be able to learn from, Rennie and Mike, how to do things and, pick their brains. And I'm sure Mike would be more than happy to work deals with you too out there and give you some good advice. And that's what we're going to be doing behind the scenes. I'm going to be following his leads and providing information. And that's what you do whenever you're looking for advice. My dad used to tell me growing up, his dad always spoke in country English. You never had to walk away, scratch your head, and wonder what he meant by what he said. When I got ready to go in the Army, for example, he told me, he said, son, do yourself a favor. He says, you go out there in the world, if you don't want to be treated like an idiot, then don't act like an idiot. That was just the way he talked. He was just a simple country boy. And, so therefore, getting with Mike here and Rennie and working with them and, go to people who know what they're talking about, who are interested in helping everyone involved in the deal. That is a key to being successful. That is a key to having good, strong business partners, because people that I run from in a hurry is the guy that's only interested in buttering his own bread.
Well said.
And we know we've seen them. I think I've had my fair share and maybe fudged in on a couple other guys as ration of those guys. But it's very, very critical to align yourself with subject matter experts who know what they're talking about, because that gives you instant credibility too. Because they can make a phone call and say things that you may not know how to say, or they may send an email on your behalf or whatever to help you. So please get in touch with both of these gentlemen here. Again, Mike's website here. Let me get it up here.
They can actually reach out to me directly, info@mikewolfmastery.com.
Info. Okay.
Info.
All right, I'll have to get that up there for the next show for next week. And to get in touch with Rennie, please go to his wealthonanyincome.com. We've got about a minute and a half left, and I want to make sure I get that out there. So just go to Rennie's website and click on that. You can get in touch with him there. You can see him on stage as a TEDx talker. And also info at MikeWolfMastery.com. That's a direct link to Mike. He'll be glad to get in touch with you and answer your questions and help you any way he can. This hour went by too fast.
Sure did.
Yeah. I mean, man, and I'm going to do some work behind the scenes. I'm going to pick Mike and Rennie's brains there and see what I can do about, putting something together. And I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you what went well, what didn't go well, and what I learned along the way. Because if you're not learning something along the way, you're not doing anything it's worthwhile, or, you got to be able to make mistakes to learn,
Well, here I got an idea, and maybe this is what you're saying, Jim, is we could treat you like a guinea pig.
I don't have no problem with that.
Looking for something to buy and helping you negotiate the purchase, and you end up with another piece of real estate.
Okay. All right. And yeah, I'm good with that. I don't mind being a guinea pig. I mean, I'm 74, but if I was dyslexic, I'd say I was 47.
You don't look 74, so you're doing something right. Is that damn?
Yeah, I tell you. Yeah, I tell you. I got some new pipes in my heart. Got a 4-barrel. Had the cabbage 4X procedure. And the first time I'd ever heard that word. I had no idea I was going in for open heart surgery. And cabbage is coronary artery bypass grafting, where they take the veins out of your leg and do the bypasses. But I'm doing very, very well, and I'm very, very thankful. And this is another thing too I'd like to share with the folks out there. You folks that follow the show, you've heard me say this, but people ask me after I had my heart attack in October of 2021, they said, Jim, when are you going to retire? And my answer has always been the day before I die. If I get a chance, I'll call you. If not, I'll see you on the other side of the Jordan. Because if I had retired, think of right now, all you folks out there in TV land that would never have met Rennie, have never met Mike, and not have an idea to say, I think I could do that. And that's the why I'm here. That's why I haven't retired. And besides that, I got no desire to try to win a blue ribbon down at the county fair for having the biggest or brightest or reddest tomato. That just doesn't do anything for me, folks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next week, and just want to thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of Mike and Rennie and myself, we sincerely hope that you and your loved ones are healthy, happy, and blessed in all areas of your life. And as Mr. Bill Heinrich says, the very first thing you need to do in your life is learn how to love yourself first. That's critical. You owe it to yourself to love yourself first. Then you can love others, and also love yourself enough to forgive yourself and give yourself grace when you make a mistake. Well, gentlemen, I'll give you a chance to wave goodbye and say a few closing words, and we'll be out of here.
For me, it's just wealth creation's a team sport, and both Mike and I and Jim are willing to be on your team.
And for me, I'd say make sure you know what all your options are out there, because so many people are reading the stuff that we're force-fed from the media, and it makes it sound like the whole world's falling apart, and there's so much opportunity out there.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Have a piece of that.
Amen. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.